like to welcome the head coach of the SEC Western Division champion Alabama Crimson Tide, Coach Nick Sabin. We'll have Coach Sabin make an opening remark, and then we'll take your questions. Coach?
Well, it's certainly an honor for us to be here. I'm very proud of our team for what they were able to accomplish over the course of the season to create this opportunity to play in the SEC championship game. I'd also like to congratulate Georgia, Coach Smart, and their team for winning the East, and they're obviously an outstanding team that'll be a tremendous challenge for us tomorrow in the game. We'd like to thank the SEC for the great competitive venue, Mercedes-Benz for the great stadium that we have here to play in the city of Atlanta for, hosting this thing, which is, to me, one of the best competitive venues that I've ever had the opportunity to be associated with. So this is quite an honor for us, and it's going to be a great game.
Thank you, Coach. If you have a question for Coach Sabin, please raise your hand. We have microphones. Amy and Emma can get a microphone to you. Again, please give your name and affiliations. So we'll open it up for questions for Coach Sabin. All right, Amy, we'll go down here on the very front row. In the front. Murray.
Murray Pooh, Bulldog Illustrated. Coach, with the great success you've had throwing the ball this year, and Tua having such a great year, how pleased have you been with your three running backs? Not quite in limelight they've been in the past, maybe, but what do you feel about their performance this season?
Well, we feel like that having the opportunity to create balance on offense is really a key for us. We have made a lot of explosive plays in the passing game, but we feel like in a game like this, especially being able to control the line of scrimmage and allowing some of the running backs that we have to contribute in a positive way is going to be a real key to our success because, for us, having balance on offense is always when we play the best.
Coach, we'll go over to our left side about 3/4 of the way back.
AJ Spur, 90.7 WVUA. Coach, with Tua having such a stellar second half in the national championship game, in this venue against this team, do you feel that there's any added pressure on top of Tua to perform against the same team in the same venue?
Not really. This is a new game, new season, new team, new opportunity. There's a lot of things for us to look forward to here. I think the key to these kinds of games is you're always focused on what's right in front of you, not something that's happened in the past or even something that could possibly happen in the future. And I think you got to play these games one play at a time, and it's important that every player on the team have that kind of focus, and I think it's going to be important for Tua to have that focus as well.
Questions, raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. Got one back over here on the wall, right side.
Great call, your Action Sports and News. Coach, to finish a season, start the season number one, finish the season number one is a remarkable feat in itself. Winning national championships you've already done, but does it mean more to you to win it as an undefeated national champion or just a national champion?
Well, I think, obviously every game that we play, we go into the game trying to prepare our team to play as well as they possibly can, and the ultimate goal is to have success in that game, which is usually defined by, whether you won or lost the game. So, we certainly want to win every game that we play. We're always looking forward to the next opportunity that we have. Sometimes, teams respond a little better when they don't have success to some of the things they need to do to improve on. I think it's very difficult sometimes to deal with success and be able to continue to focus on the things you need to do to play well, psychologically at least. And that's always been a challenge for us and our team, and it's been a challenge for our team this year. So I don't think it matters, one way or the other. I think we're in a situation that we're in right now that if you want to control your own destiny, you need to be able to continue to have success, and I think that's what we try to focus on.
Coach, we'll go back over here to our left.
Paul Newberry from Associated Press. You touching on that, wanting to control your own destiny. Do you think at all about playoff scenarios and even the thought that y'all could even lose this game and still make the playoff? And you've gotten in a couple times without winning the SEC, obviously.
Well, I think, our total focus is on this game. We're going to play against a really good team. It's going to be important for us to play as well as we played all year long and do it for 60 minutes in the game, every minute in the game, probably. So that's where our focus is. I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about what ifs, which, that would be a what if this happens. So not really, no. We'd like to focus on the game. I think it's only fair to our players as coaches, as people in our organization, and for each one of them to stay focused on what they have to do that's right in front of them, which is, this particular game against a really good team.
Coach, we'll go back over to the right. Mike?
Mike Griffith from Dog Nation. Coach, your team statistically has been the most dominant in SEC history, just from a number standpoint, the average margin of victory and winning by 20 points 12 consecutive games. Has it felt like that during the regular season, and do you have concerns because your team has been largely unchallenged most of the season in the second half of football games?
Well, I think that, we're certainly happy to have been able to do the things that we're able to do throughout the course of the season. You never know how your team's going to respond, but if you focus on the next play, you're not focused on the scoreboard. You're focused on not really even winning or losing, but how do I execute on the next play, which is really what we try to get our players to do. Then that play becomes the most important thing. The circumstance of the situation in the game really doesn't. All right, so hopefully, we've been able to drive that home with our players so they can stay focused even if they are in a tight game, and play the situation that is presented to them in a positive way.
Okay, we'll go back over here to the left. 3/4.
Coach, can we get an update on Bugs after hyperextending his knee in the Iron Bowl?
Yeah, he practiced every day this week, and I think he should be fine for the game.
Coach, we'll go over here to our right. Dennis?
Nick, what's the latest on Tua's knee? The brace is off for the last 2 games, but he did say this week it's not fully recovered. It's getting there, but it's not fully recovered.
Well, from a medical standpoint, they didn't feel like he needed to have a brace on his knee any longer. He looks like he can run efficiently and effectively. He doesn't have a lot of pain or anything like that. So as far as I'm concerned, as far as we're concerned, he's medically cleared to play, and he's never ever thought that where he is right now has any effect on his ability to play.
Okay, Coach, we'll go over here on the left side, midway back.
Coach Cody Chaffins, Fox 5 in Atlanta. As you look at this Georgia team on film, a lot of the same players, but is there anything that stands out to you that they're doing much better than they were when you guys faced them in January?
Well, I thought they were a very good team, a year ago, and I think that they present a lot of issues and problems for you on both sides of the ball. They're very well coached. They do a good job of executing whatever it is they're called on to do. I think offensively, they made a lot of explosive plays, and they've been able to control the line of scrimmage and run the ball effectively. And the quarterback, whichever quarterback has played, certainly has done his role extremely well. Jake's played really well for him, and when number one comes in, he does a really good job of executing his role, and it creates some preparation issues for you when you try to defend that. They still play really solid, sound, good defense all the time. They're physical. They run to the ball well. They got good team speed, and they played especially well on special teams. So this is a complete team that we're playing, and I think they've made improvements from a year ago.
Okay, Coach, we'll stay on this right side along the wall.
Brandon Sudge, Megan Telegraph. Coach, as you speak about special teams, how important is that in a game like this that could be closely contested, and then also on Georgia's end with Michael Hartman, what type of challenges does he pose in the on punt return?
Right. Well, to me, you want your special teams to be able to control vertical field position in the game. Your specialists have to execute to be able to do that, and that's not just your punter and kicker, but it's also the skill guys who are the returners. And, Miko Hardeman is as fine a returner as I've seen anywhere in the country. This year he's very explosive. He's very fast. If he gets a seam, he can certainly accelerate through it, and he's made some big plays in that regard. And so it's going to be important for our specialists to execute, but it's really going to be important for our cover teams to control, him. And I think in close games, special teams always has a huge impact, on the outcome of the game. It could be field position or it could be an explosive play that makes the difference.
Coach, we'll go back over to the left, 3/4 of the way back.
Ben Jones from the Tuscaloosa News. Last night on your radio show, you talked about some of the adversity that your team has overcome this year. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that, because at least on a superficial level, some people might look at a team that's won every game by 22 points and think that it hasn't gone through a lot of challenges.
Well, we have internal challenges. I think every team does. And I think that, when you lose players, you have players get injured, and we've had a couple really good players on defense that were injured and are out for the year. And we've had several really good backup players that were core special teams guys that are injured and out for the year. So I think internally you always have challenges of, who's going to step up? Is that guy going to be able to play effectively for you? Are the other players on your team going to have confidence that that guy can do the job well? And how's that going to affect the chemistry of your team? So we've had those kind of challenges throughout the season. So, and I think we've handled them well. And so far, it's the next guy has done a good enough job for us.
Okay, we'll go down front. AP, did you have any?
AP Stedham, WHEP, Foley, Alabama. Coach, can you talk about the development of Najee Harris this season and what he's added to the offense?
Well, Najee is a very talented player. He's got great size and speed. He's very effective when he has the ball in his hand, and he's a complete player in terms of being a good receiver as well as a good runner with the ball. And I think the improvement that he's made has come because of the experience that he's gained as a player. And he's a more complete player now, and we have total confidence that he can go in the game. And Damian Harris and Josh Jacobs have both been very productive for us as well. But I think those three guys are all really good players, and we need them all to play very well.
Okay, we'll go back over here on the left.
Brandon Adams from Dog Nation. Coach, you are now about to play Georgia for the second consecutive postseason. Is there any sense of anticipation with you that you could be doing a lot more of this in the years to come, playing Georgia in games like this?
Well, I think Kirby has done a fantastic job at Georgia, and they've recruited well. They have good players. They do a good job of coaching them. And, we obviously have our challenges to continue to try to play at the standard that we played at. And that's something that we're going to focus on. But I have no doubt that they'll continue to have a very, very good program because I think they've established that, and I think they'll continue to do well in the future.
Coach, we'll go right down here to front or left.
J.D. Murray, the Red and Black. Coach, obviously Georgia got a look at Tua in the second half of last year's national championship game. How does that affect your preparation at all, and do you think that gives them any kind of advantage, knowing that most of the teams you faced hadn't seen much of him before?
Well, most of the teams we played this year, we played against last year. So, I think the fact that we played Georgia last year, we learned a little bit about them. I'm sure they learned a little bit about us. And I think, you always take some of those things into consideration, when you plan for this year's game. What worked well, what didn't work well, what do we need to change, what can we fix, what can we do better. That's the first thing we do after any game that we play is, analyze, if we played this team again, what will we do differently. So I think the answer to the question is probably yes. But at the same time, I think it's important that you do what you do well. And your players have confidence in it, they understand it, and they got to be able to go out and execute it. So I think when you make a lot of changes sometimes, maybe you're not as effective in terms of your ability to execute.
Here's we'll go to our far left over here, Scott.
Hey, Nick, Scott Rabelais with the Baton Rouge Advocate. Kirby is one of many former assistants you've had who've gone on to become head coaches. What qualities do you look for when you're hiring an assistant, and what things did you see in him when you hired him at LSU that maybe might have led you to think if not then, but later on, that he might get to a level like he is now?
Well, first off, you want to hire people that are knowledgeable, which usually means they're bright. Kirby is certainly very bright. You want to hire people who are a good fit on your staff. That means they're going to get along with the other people that you have working, so you work well together, as a group. And you want to have people that have goals and aspirations for what they want to accomplish and what they want to do, because that's going to motivate them to do a very good job. And Kirby did an outstanding job for us for all the years that he was with us, and I think the record sort of speaks for itself, and whatever he was responsible for was, very, very efficient and successful. So, but those are the qualities that we try to look for. And, we've been fortunate to have really good assistants. We've been fortunate to have people who work well together in our program, and I think all those people have really made a much greater, more significant impact on we've been able to accomplish than sometimes they get credit for.
Coach, we'll go back over to the right, the middle. Ross.
Ross Dellinger, SI. Nick, I want to take you back to your first SEC championship game in 2001 with LSU and Tennessee. At halftime, you were down big, didn't have your starting quarterback, starting running back. Can you kind of take us into that locker room as a young coach and the adversity that you handled there?
Well, you bring up an interesting point. I think in that game, I probably made the greatest blunder of my coaching career. We got behind 14-0 right off the bat. First two times Tennessee had the ball, they scored touchdowns. We got the ball. We got 4th and an inch on our own 29-yard line, after a kickoff. And I say, if we don't keep the ball on offense, we may get beat 100-0. So we went for it. And John Henderson was the nose guard, and Rohan Davey was the quarterback. And John Henderson knocked the center back about to where we got the huddle, and we didn't make it. And we went in and stopped them on defense, and they kicked the field goal. So now we were behind 17 to whatever. And I'm like, for the next 10 minutes of the game, I'm thinking this is the dumbest thing you've ever done in your coaching career. And from that time on, we ended up winning the game like 31-20. So we kind of played pretty well. And I was still a little shook after the game, and a couple of the seniors came up to me and said, Coach, when you went for it on 4th down, that's when we really thought we could win. And that changed the way we played. So the dumbest thing I ever did turned out to be one of the smartest. That's what I remember about that game. Well, Rohan got hurt in the game. Jimbo did an outstanding job. Matt Mock was a freshman quarterback at that point. He hadn't developed very much as a passer, so we were doing a lot of quarterback runs, which they probably weren't ready for, which helped us control the ball in the second half of the game, and the momentum of the game changed. And obviously that was, one of those ones that you always remember.
All right, other questions, raise your hand. We've got another one back. We'll stay right there on the wall, and then we'll come back up front.
Carl Prather, WAFF TV in Huntsville. Nick, walk us through the progression of Keaton Anderson as a player within your program, your organization, and his potential expanded role for tomorrow.
Well, Keaton is a bright guy who has always been a core special teams player, and he's always been one of those players who has worked extremely hard to try to make improvements. He's never, ever gotten frustrated with his role on the team. And he's always stayed focused on what he needs to do to continue to improve and get better as a player. And, this year, because we've lost now 3 DBs and a guy that's suspended for, the first half of the game, his role expanded in the last game, and he did a nice job. And his role certainly may expand in this game tomorrow. But I think it's certainly a great example of someone who showed tremendous perseverance in his career to continue to work, grow, develop, and become a better player. And he played linebacker in high school, so he really wasn't a defensive back. So he didn't have any previous experience, and he's done a really nice job for us.
Okay, we'll go back here in front right, Coach, right in front of us.
Dave Piper, South Atlanta Radio. Coach, Christian Miller missed a lot of time last season. What has he accomplished this season?
He's been one of our most consistent performers on defense. He's understands exactly what his role is and what he's supposed to do, and he's physically talented enough to do it effectively, and he's really played well for us all season long. And by losing Terrell Lewis, in the summertime, who was also a significant player who missed a lot of time last year due to injury, the fact that Christian has stepped up big for us this year has been really important.
Okay, last call for any questions. If you've got a question, raise your hand. All right, Coach Sabin, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. And I would like to say that, I know you all think I don't like the media, but that's not true. I think you do a tremendous amount of good things to promote our game for our fans, the people who support college football, the interest that is created in college football. I think all of you do a marvelous job, at that. And I certainly appreciate what you do, and thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.